Pro Tools 2022.4 major update, right? That's what they're saying, at least. They tell us it's a major update. I'm pretty sure my audio is good, but of course I'm gonna ask, can you hear me? How's my audio? What's up, man? How you doing? How you doing? Hope all is well with you. We're gonna talk about this Pro Tools thing because I'm getting hit up. Of course, you know, everybody got questions. Don't nobody want to read. So I'm here. I done did all the reading and digging and information finding for you. And so we're gonna cover this thing and hit all the key points that are important for most people. I do definitely still recommend that you read up on the update when you get a chance, because there's a lot of things beyond just the highlight things. There's a lot of stuff that they have written out for us that we can go to, a lot of different guides. Matter of fact, let me just go ahead and share my screen here. So when you get in here and you have on Pro Tools website, you can actually download all the docs for 2022.4. So you can see you got the plugins guide, Groove Cell, which is a new virtual instrument. Synth Cell is another virtual instrument. What's new? So that's a whole PDF guide that's giving you all the details on what's new. You get a quick reference guide, kind of breaking down things on a, per thing basis. This is actually really good for people that's just getting started with Pro Tools. It's actually got a lot of details in here for like just creating sessions, things like that. So really dope resource there. Of course, the full README guide. This is the one that gives you all the details. So everything you want to know about, you can see right here, system compatibility as far as what operating systems work, certain general compatibility things about your system. This is where you find all the gotchas or the whoopsies, for people that are already on Monterey or you on an M1 machine. They've got all the details about problems that they already know of, which to me is hilarious, that there's literally a section of this document that tells you all the problems that they've already noticed with certain machines, but they go ahead and release this thing anyways. So let's dive into Avid's website, because that's where you're going to find the meat and potatoes of what you really, really, really want to know here. All right. So on Pro Tools website, obviously you go to Pro Tools and you can see that the big headline right now is new 2022.4. There's 3 new versions of Pro Tools. Now, if you've been around for a while, it's always kind of been at least 2 versions. At sometimes there's been 3. Previously there was Pro Tools First, which they got rid of. And now we have in place of that Pro Tools Artist. Now, I'm going to go right off the bat and say this is great because Pro Tools First was, we're just going to say trash. Pro Tools First was trash. It was 16 tracks maximum, and you couldn't really do nothing. You couldn't use third-party plugins. I don't think you could import video. So it was very, very, very bare bones. It was free, so, people weren't expecting much. But when you compare it to things like GarageBand, it was just like, yo, this is whack. So now they have Artist, which is $9.99 a month or $100 a year. And with the Artist bundle, matter of fact, let me just jump to, so you got Artist, Studio, Flex. So Studio is going to be $31.99 per month or $2.99 a year. And then Flex with Pro Tools Ultimate is going to be $99 a month or $1,000 a year. Now, I know these prices sound crazy to some people, and I'll be honest, they are high. These are real prices, but just looking at Flex alone, $100 a month or $1,000 a year, you're professional. Like that's pro grade pricing right there. If you're not doing pro level work, don't even worry about that, because chances are you don't need that. And I'm going to explain why in just a second. We're going to really get into the nitty gritty of this. So let's go ahead and break down the key features. Some of the main things you want to know about is Melodyne Essentials comes with all versions. So you get the basic version of Melodyne, so you'll be able to tune your vocals Not in real time, but you can hand tune vocals kind of like MIDI piano. So that's great that everybody gets Melodyne Essentials. The biggest differences as far as inputs is right here. 16 tracks with Pro Tools Artist, 64 tracks with Pro Tools Studio. That's huge. 64 tracks in Pro Tools with any interface. It don't have to be an Avid interface. That's the key. This can be an Apollo, Apogee, don't even matter. Like if you got a 64 IO input, matter of fact, you can connect a bunch of interfaces together and use the aggregate device if you're on a Mac and get up to that 64. If you're on Dante, you can use 64 inputs from Dante right there. No HDX, none of that. So that's a killer right there. If you move up to Pro Tools Flex with Pro Tools Ultimate software, you're getting 256 IO if you're using Core Audio or ASIO. Again, that's huge because the key to that is right here. Core Audio and ASIO. That means any standard interface that connects to the computer can do up to 256 inputs. That's crazy. Most people, again, you don't need that. If you're not doing orchestras or Dolby Atmos, anything like that, 256 inputs is well beyond what anybody needs on average. If you're using an HDX system, either classic or the hybrid engine, that's going to get you 192 inputs. And of course, we know how that breaks down. It depends on how many cards you have because each card can do up to 64 inputs per card. So you still got to deal with that if you're on an HDX system. And then HD native, they cut you off at a maximum of 64. So right there, you're seeing on the Ultimate side, you actually benefit more by not being on HDX as far as IO is concerned. If you're not on HDX or HD native, you get 256 inputs. That's a lot of IO, man. That's crazy. And that's simultaneous recording, like literally recording in real time. You could do 256 inputs. Crazy, right? Audio tracks, 32 audio tracks on Artist, 512 on Studio, and then 2048 on Ultimate. Bananas. Like that's a lot of tracks. And again, if you've been around Pro Tools for a while, this part right here is huge because it used to be mono or stereo. And when you use a stereo track, they used to have this thing called voices to where it would actually take up two voices, just a bunch of ridiculousness. So now it's very simple, cut and dry. You can do 512 tracks, mono, stereo, surround, don't matter. On Studio, and then again on Ultimate, you have 2048. On the voices, it only matters if you're on Ultimate system because that architecture still matters over there. So you get 2048 voices on a non-HDX and also on the HDX, and then that's a hybrid engine. But if you're using HDX Classic, then you only get 256 voices. So again, this stuff right here, if you're not on HDX, it don't apply to you. Like, just don't even worry about it. Just get that out of your mind. Flex don't matter for you. MIDI tracks, you can see the count there. So, you know, that's a lot of stuff. Again, artists, they're giving you 32 instrument tracks, 32 auxiliary inputs, 32 routing folders. I mean, that's crazy, right? Like, most people, again, we're talking about most people on average. You don't need that. That's a lot of stuff, man. Like, I mean, I'm thinking about, you know, singer-songwriters just recording at home, a guitar, microphone, or even, you know, R&B singers, rappers. They got a 2-track beat and a microphone. That's it. 32 aux inputs. What they gonna do with that? A bunch of auto-tune, reverb? Like, I don't know. Like, that's a lot. If you move up to Studio, you're getting 128 aux tracks. And then, of course, on Ultimate, you get 1,024. Basic folder tracks, all of them have 2,000. And so if you don't know, the difference between basic and routing folders is basic folder is literally just a way to group all your tracks together. So if you got a bunch of drums, you want to put them in a folder, that's a basic folder. All your vocals, put them in a folder, basic folder. A routing folder acts like an aux used to act to where your audio actually passes through that that folder. So for instance, if you do a routing folder for drums, all your drums, their output is going to route to that routing folder. And then that routing folder is where all the drums will be. And then you can, of course, do your processing on that track, and inserts, sends. Basic folders don't have inserts and sends. They're just a means of organizing your session. Video tracks, artists can't use none. Again, most people that's at that level, they don't need video. They're not doing video. They're doing music. That's it. Studio, you get 1 video track. And then Ultimate, you get 64 video tracks. And people always ask why you need that many video tracks. Well, a lot of times we have different versions of a film that we're working on. So you might have a first cut, then a second cut, third cut. And the ability to go between the different cuts and see the changes is very helpful to have multiple video tracks. So that's why we have that there. All of them have unlimited buses. So you get unlimited buses across the board. Boom, there you go. Included plugins. I know people like to do that. 100 plus included plugins with artists, and then 120 plus with Studio and Ultimate. That's a lot of included plugins. And here's another quick one. I already mentioned it, but I hit it again. Artists uses third-party plugins. So that means on the very, very, very low version of Pro Tools, you can use Auto-Tune. You can use Waves plugins. You can use Revoice and Vocal Line and whatever else plugins you want to use, all in Pro Tools Artist. So that tier right there, I think, is going to be a big hit for a lot of people, because, I mean, that's right within most people's budgets, and it's got more than enough that you need to do most things. I mean, even a band tracking. I mean, come on, man. 16 inputs at a time. That's easy. Like that's real easy to knock out a band right there. Cool. All right, let's move on. What we got? Let me check these comments real quick, see what people saying. Need help to get our sound from soundboard to the iPad instead of picking up the house sound. We can chat about that. I'm guessing you're talking about your stream for a church mix. So yeah, we can definitely talk about that. That's a lot of flex. So if you're not global or mainstream, Pro Tools Studio is the way to go. Hey, listen, it is. I mean, I'm gonna show you a couple things about flex in a minute. That's gonna really tell you the thing I've been telling people for the past day is that you know if you need flex. When you see the list of things that Flex has, you know if you need it. It's not a question. Like it's oh yeah, we must have this because of our facility and the type of work we do. So moving on, create and edit. Just, basic stuff like automation. They all have automation plugin, automatic plugin, delay compensation, elastic audio, workspace browser, standard Pro Tools stuff. Let's keep moving. Audio to MIDI, boom, that's there. Beat detective, there. In the box dubbing. So here we go. This is something that's only in Flex. Again, if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. You don't need it. It's for post-production. Track punch, destructive punch. You don't need it. Post-production. Film recorder workflow. Again, post-production, editing dialogue. You don't need it. If you're just doing music, that don't pertain to you. And when you start diving into that world, then you can look at that. But until then, don't worry about it. Now, I'm a fast forward a little bit. The thing for me is this is more clear-cut than Pro Tools has ever been, because now there's a clear distinction. Okay, you have Studio with some advanced features, but then you have another class, which is Ultimate with Flex, that enhances it with all the additional stuff for post. So now the people that aren't doing post-production aren't taxed to pay for all the additional features that they are not using. Why people are up in arms about this, I don't understand. It makes perfect sense to me. Like, yo, if you're doing high-end post-production that requires you to have in-the-box dubbing, 64 video tracks, destructive punch, film record workflow, then you go with Ultimate. That's what you need. Everybody else, they shouldn't have to pay for additional features that they're not even using. And that's been my thing. Like, for the longest, we've been paying for Ultimate, and there's a lot of people that don't use all the features because they don't do that type of work. Cool. Now Avid's saying, hey, you don't have to pay for that. If you don't use it, you don't need it, Cool, no problem. Here you go. All right, moving on. And those are kind of the big ones right there. Like, you're going to see, like, pretty much the flex stuff is really for post-production people. Mixing and mastering, again, most of this stuff is exactly the same. AAX native, AAX audio suite plugins. The only thing that changes is, you know, DSP plugins when you have a Carbon or if you're on an HDX system. Freezing and committing tracks, all the same. Here's a big one, clip effects. Now, clip effects is a newer feature as of the last 4 or 5 versions of Pro Tools that allows you to do basically the Avid channel strip. So that's your EQ, compressor, gate, and also high and low pass filters all within one little strip at the top of your screen. And you can apply effects to individual clips. So for me, this was a game changer in my workflow, because now simple things like corrective EQ, I do in clip effects. If I just need to do a high pass filter, I'm not wasting an insert slot for a high pass filter. I literally have a preset on my keyboard to hit for a high pass filter. So I can literally select all the clips I want to high pass, hit the button, and it does a high pass filter on the clip. So that's huge. You didn't have that before. Now you do have it if you're on studio. And then if you're on artist, it can play it back. So that was the functionality that you previously had on Pro Tools Vanilla or Standard, was that it could play back clip effects, but you couldn't edit them or work with them. Now the studio version has it, Ultimate version has it, artist version doesn't have it. Clip gain, they all have it. Advanced metering with gain reduction, you don't get that in artist, but again, usually if you're at that artist level, you don't need to see that. And let's be honest, most plugins have a meter in it that you can see the gain reduction. So if you're doing compression, you're trying to see how much compression you're doing, you likely have a meter in the plugin you're using that's going to show you that. So it's a nice to have. It's not a must have. Trust me. Time code ruler, again, all there. VCAs, you only get that in Studio and Ultimate. But again, if you're on the artist side, you're probably not doing any heavy mixing to where you need to worry about VCAs. Basically, what a VCA is a way for you to group a bunch of tracks together and control the volume of all of those tracks on one fader. So it's a very nice clutch move for mixing, but it's not a must-have. Not a must-have. What's up? What's up? How you doing? Okay, moving on. Surround mixing. This is a huge one. Now you can do surround in studio. It's not just Ultimate. Studio version has surround. It has Atmos, because we know right now Dolby is pushing Atmos. That is the new big thing. So everybody trying to get Atmos set up. So now they've given it to you. If you got the studio version, you get Atmos mixing, you get surround mixing. You can do your ADM export, which is what you need for delivering music to Atmos. Ambisonics, VR, advanced automation. These are clutch moves. I'll go over some of that at a later date. I'm got to do another Pro Tools class for that. But the advanced automation, that's been one of the reasons why I've always recommended people move up to Ultimate, especially if you're doing post-production, because the things you can do with advanced automation kind of blow your mind. Like, you can literally, for instance, I'll give you a quick example. You could be in the middle of writing volume automation on a vocal, and you like that level. You think that's a very good level, and you want that to continue for the rest of the song. With advanced automation, you can hit a button that says write to end. So now it will write that automation automatically to the end of the record without you having to do it in real time. You hit the button, it writes it automatically, you press stop, you good to go. Or if you were in the middle of the song and you wanted to go to the beginning, you could tell it to write to start. So now it's going to write that automation all the way back to the beginning to where you currently are. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do with advanced automation that I'm excited for people to finally get that, and for me to be able to start showing more of that stuff for people that are not on Ultimate. Now, everybody that's got studio, you have that. Multi-stem bouncing. This is another big one. Now with studio, you can literally go into the bounce window, and instead of having to bounce out one track at a time, you can bounce out multiple. So this is great for if you're doing stems and all that kind of stuff, because now you can literally bounce out your drum stem, your music stem, your guitar stem, your bass stem, background vocals, everything all at one time. So you can do one bounce and bounce out all of your stems. Now, of course, your routing and your session matters. Depending on how you got your session set up and how you're doing your buses and everything, is going to determine what you can bounce. But in the bounce window, you can literally select any physical output on your interface or any bus that you have in Pro Tools. So that's a game changer for a lot of people. Usability tab. You know, Ableton link, that's a dope thing that you can link Ableton to Pro Tools. So photo tracks, again, all the same. Spacing out clips is a new feature. AAF, OMF, MXF file interchange. Artists, again, usually don't need that. It's a nice feature to have to transfer sessions between people, especially if you're going between DAWs that can accept these formats. It's nice to be able to give a session. But so you need Studio for that and Ultimate. Batch renaming. I love batch renaming because you can batch rename a bunch of clips or a bunch of tracks and add something to the beginning of all those tracks, add something to the end, add something to the middle, completely change the name, change numbers, all kind of stuff where you can do a batch renaming. But again, most people on the lower end, you just don't need that. It's not a thing that you need on an everyday basis. Extended RAM disk cache. Disk caching basically is a way for Pro Tools to load a lot of your session into RAM. So of course this affects your CPU, your RAM usage on your computer. So depending on how much RAM you have determines how much disk cache you could use. But it's a great way, especially for people who have slower hard drives maybe. It loads your session into the RAM. And so a lot of the audio is now playing back directly from the RAM and not from your actual hard drive. So it's a nice thing to have. Again, with SSDs now, modern day stuff, you don't really need it. I use it a lot just because I have it and I'm so used to it. But in most cases, a lot of people, you just don't need it. It's overkill. Satellite remote link. This is where you can have multiple Pro Tools rigs or Pro Tools and a Media Composer rig running for video stuff. Again, now we're talking about post-production. Usually don't need it. So film composers, a lot of times they use this. You know, big Hollywood studios that are doing mixes for major movies might have 2 or 3 different computers because they got literally one computer that's doing dialogue, another computer doing music, another computer that's doing sound effects. So with Ultimate, you can do up to 2 satellite networks without Pro Tools HD hardware and up to 12 with satellite network with HD hardware. So 2 without, 12 with it. And then on Studio, you get 1 per network. Again, like we're talking about stuff that you don't need. Like if you're not doing satellite computers, this is irrelevant to you. Just ignore it. Don't even worry about it, guys. Just move on. Video. We already talked about the video stuff. Pro Tools artists, don't do it. Pro Studio, 1 track, 64 tracks. Cool. Advanced video editing, you only get in Flex. I'll be honest, I've only used that 1, maybe 2 times. Like it's a cool thing to have. You don't need it. It's not Pro Tools is for audio. We're not editing video in Pro Tools. Like if you're actually doing real video editing, you're not gonna do it in Pro Tools. Like whatever. Collaborate and connect. They all have cloud collaboration and they all start with 1 GB of storage. Of course, you can purchase more storage if you want to use that. No problem. Compatible hardware. So if you have a Pro Tools Carbon interface, you have to have at least Pro Tools Studio to use that. HDX, only going to work on Flex. Matrix Studio, HDI, all the Avid hardware stuff, that's all over here on the Flex. Again, a lot of people ain't down there. Y'all got Apollos, you got Scarletts and other stuff. You can work with artists, you can work with Studio just fine. You see, third-party hardware, completely compatible across the board, everything. Oh, the fancy Pro Tools app. I actually have it up here on my iPad. So the Avid Control app is free. You can use it on an iPad. You can use it on a Android tablet. You can use it on a phone, Android or iPhone. So you can use it on multiple devices. That's free. So fader control with your fingers, controlling plugins. You need to run in the booth and record yourself away from the computer. The app is free and you can use it on all versions. Cool. You want to get a control surface like I have? Cool. Go for it. You can do that with all the versions, which is crazy. When you really think about it, you can use the S6. So the $100,000 console control surface from Avid, you can use that on Pro Tools artists. That's crazy. Like that's bananas. Let's see here. AV interfaces. Again, if you're not doing video stuff, ignore that. That don't matter for you at all. You don't need it. Disregard. System requirements. You know, this is where you get into some specifics about your individual computers and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just gonna hit the main things right now. Of course, support removed. 2016 MacBook Pro 13 is no longer supported. 2014 Mac Mini, no longer supported. 2013 MacBook Air, no longer supported. Now, I'll give you one note. Even though they say no longer supported, doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means they're not testing it anymore. For instance, High Sierra is no longer supported as an operating system. I have 2 computers running current version of Pro Tools on High Sierra, no problems. So just because they say unsupported doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's just letting you know, hey, we haven't tested this. If there's some issues, we can't really help you beyond basic technical stuff, but we're not testing this. We're not spending any time on it. It's old, outdated to them. And so don't disregard it. Monterey. If you're on Monterey, you need to be on Pro Tools at least 2021.12. And obviously now with 2022, you're going to get Monterey support. Big Sur, M1, they got some special information for you guys if you're in there, because there's some known things, compatibility issues, the new T2 chip situation with Apple, all that kind of stuff. So if you got those computers, make sure you go in here, check your compatibility for that stuff. You can see right now they have just dropped Mojave. So Mojave is no longer supported. Again, that don't mean it don't work. It just means they're no longer testing it. And I mean, that just happened. So the likelihood of it not working is very slim, to be honest with you. So I would not really worry about that at all. You know, Macs, if you're buying new Macs, here's all your details about that. Recommendations on RAM, all that good stuff. There is still M1 compatibility is still Rosetta. They have not done native yet. It's Rosetta, but from everything I've been hearing from people, it's fine. They're not having any issues. Only issues that they might be having are known things, and they're minor for most people. Still plugins, excuse me, that aren't compatible. But again, this is small stuff that we're talking about. Nothing big. So yeah, I mean that's it, man. Anybody got any questions for me, like anything specific you've been wanting to find out about this update that has been not clear to you, and some of this stuff? There is upgrades. So if you have older licenses, so if you still have like a Pro Tools 11 or 12, 2018, something like that, you know, they got rid of the reinstatement plans a couple years ago. Well, now with this new version, they have a way for you to get current. So double check that with your retailers, or go on your Avid account and you can see you can upgrade. So like if you have a, like for instance, Pro Tools 12, and you no longer have a support plan, you can pay $350 to move up to the current version of Pro Tools, or you can do $299 to convert that perpetual license to a subscription. They are no longer doing perpetual. So the thing about this is, if you want a perpetual license, you need to go through a retailer like Sweetwater, Guitar Center, or whoever, and get a perpetual license, because they're going to continue selling the ones that they already have in their inventory. But as soon as those are gone, Pro Tools is no longer doing perpetual licenses. And I know that's a big upset for some people. Y'all don't like the subscription model. But hey, the writing has been on the wall for a few years now. We saw this coming, so it shouldn't be a shock. Adobe actually did it about 10 years ago. They're doing just fine. It's the way the industry is going, y'all. Subscriptions. And if you don't know, it's a tax write-off. So make sure you write that thing off every single year. Keep track of it. All the subscriptions that you pay for, you can write them off. So it's a non-issue. So man, if y'all don't have no questions, I'm gonna get off here. I got a couple more things I need to wrap up before dinner for me. Obviously I'm eating late. But yeah, man, I just really wanted to hop on here and do a quick breakdown for y'all, and just really show people the key points, and just highlight that flex is a non-issue for most of you. If you're not doing big post-production, even if you're doing post-production, if you don't use destructive punch, track punch, you don't use the field recorder workflow, you're not on HDX or HD native, you can survive, because now with Studio you have surround, which was a big one for a lot of people. They needed that surround capability, but now with Studio you have that. So I mean, there's only the people who need flex know they need flex. Another addition with flex is that they've now done a Soundflow a special version of Soundflow for Pro Tools. If you're not familiar with Soundflow, check it out. Go online, look up Soundflow. Soundflow is so dope because what they did on Soundflow is that they gave you the ability to have like a Stream Deck, or just even on your computer or your phone, tablet. You can control a lot of things within Pro Tools. So you can do things like creating groups. You can do audio suite processing, bouncing, just a bunch of stuff. Pretty much anything that's a quick key for, or if you want to stack quick keys and do macros, you can do all of that within Soundflow. So it's a way to speed up your workflow. And now they're giving that as a part of a subscription, a part of Flex. So as long as you're subscribing, you can get the Flex. So that's pretty nice. Flex will give you the Soundflow. So that's dope. Check it out. Even without Flex, check out Soundflow. It could be a game changer to your workflow, being able to have one button macros and things that just happen automatically for you. Like for instance, if you need to print some Melodyne down, like having one button that will do that for you. It's kind of clutch, right? Let me think. They did say that Flex is going to have a lot more stuff added to it. So right now we don't know what that extra stuff is, so it's really hard to pass judgment as far as the value of it. You know, so that hasn't been seen yet, but you know, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be some nice stuff. I don't foresee them doing anything that just doesn't make any sense. Because for instance, if you subscribe, you got the inner circle stuff that they're doing, to where you're getting a lot of different discounts with different manufacturers on different products and other things that you can add on to your Pro Tools. So you know, I don't see them doing anything that most people won't like. Of course, you're gonna have people that's gonna gripe and complain about it. You know, some of them are griping and complaining just because they honestly not working. I've been saying that for years. Y'all know I say that, so I have no problem saying that. For some people, the gripes are just, it's a non-issue because you're just not working. I mean, Artist is $10 a month. You spend that on lunch. Like, I mean, we just being honest. Like, that's lunch money. So there's that. So yeah, man, that's it on Pro Tools. It's a great update to me. The pricing, it is what it is. You're either gonna pay for it, you're not gonna pay for it. If you're a professional, you know this is what we use. I have yet to see a major post-production facility or a major commercial studio that is not running Pro Tools. So the advice is still Pro Tools is the industry standard, and I know people got different opinions on what the industry standard is. My definition of the industry is the major industry. Big bucks. When you go into these post facilities and you see Avid everything, I mean, they're using Media Composer for video editing. They got S6s, they have S4s, Pro Tools Ultimate on all computers. They're even using Avid storage. I bet you didn't know that, right? Avid does have storage, the Nexus server. So these people are spending big money with this company. So, you know, while I know people have, you know, their gripes and concerns, but it is what it is, man. They holding down the fort. Oh, I can't believe I forgot about this. Custom key commands. You can now create your own key commands in Pro Tools. So that's a big one. I know people been waiting on it. Reaper's had it for years. Studio One's had it for years. Yada, 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 yada. Pro Tools now has it. So you can go in there and create your own key commands. You can save them, put them on the thumb drive, take them to another studio, load them up. If you go to a studio that has custom stuff in there and you don't like it, it's throwing your workflow off, no problem. There's a reset to default button in there. You just save their settings, reset the default, and then when you leave, you just put their settings back in, load their settings, and it's all good. So that's dope to be able to customize. key commands. I haven't had a chance to dive into it, but from what I've been told and been reading is almost everything can be assigned. So even stuff that doesn't have a quick key now, if it's on the menu, you can give it a quick key. So that's kind of dope for some of those features that people have been annoyed with being able to not have a key command for. So yeah, I'm gonna hop off of here, get back to work. Y'all have a blessed evening. This has been your man Dell Mixed It, and I'm out.